disembark and the plane got there with everyone on it and everyone is alive, as I get the last person comes off that plane, the preventative job in London and America works. Do you agree that? Right. The only way we know whether prevention works is when nothing actually happened, okay? We have this in our society. As we now have this person who's made herself world famous, who has come from an ideology that clearly is a high-risk issue, I think we have to take a preventative measure by dehumanising her and eradicating the risk the same way.
First of all, I didn't disagree with the fact that we need to stop
that's
her
where
from
I'm
coming
coming
over. But the question is, I would ask you, why do we put these barriers into place?
Because we are worried about something that we think might happen that then hopefully does not happen, and that's called prevention.
Ultimately, you're not being dehumanized by adding to a situation and cooperating to a situation.
When I say dehumanize, I mean they're not worrying about what my background is, whether I'm a good man, a bad man.
I understand, but the whole point is that the whole process takes that into
who we know about.
I understand, but the whole process takes that already into consideration. You just have to cooperate to a system.
But she set herself up. Sorry, she set herself up.
Well, I'm just challenging your analogy as we so to speak, right? Yeah. As you're being searched, right, you're complying to a policy and a procedure that, again, certifies and cements and reinforces your safety.
Prevention.
Your safety of it, right? That's humanizing in that sentence.
But I am dehumanized at the moment of checking.
Absolutely.
Because the person don't want to know about, I had a good schooling, a nice family, I'm an honest person. They want to know, oh, you take your belt off, you might have an explosive here.
But it's
ridiculous to me.
But this is exactly what I'm trying to say.
So
you don't have to dehumanize to disagree with someone. That's what I'm trying to say. By dehumanizing someone, supposedly by bringing them to a checkout, asking them to supposedly take out their thing, right? You're still treating them as a human being because you're complying with policy to make sure that they are safe.
I get your point. What you're saying is by dehumanizing, you then find the humanity in them, which then gives you that. So that's okay. You can go through. I get it. But you have to dehumanize them first to find that humanity. The problem I've got with this one is she is so over the scale in that risk area that we might be better if we've got an opportunity, to not have to bring her back, eradicate it, take it, that's it, we don't want it.
I agree.
That's what I'm
saying. We agreed from the beginning.
And that's where I'm from.
No, absolutely, and I agree, and we agreed from the beginning. But what I'm trying to say is, when you say dehumanize, I would disagree more with the terminology, right? That's what I disagree with.
We can open on that.
Yeah, I understand. Just being
dehumanize to make you human.
Yeah, I understand.
So I'm looking at you at the airport going, oh, he looks so rich to me, he's carrying his cold, he's getting on the... No,
that's context.
Hang on, I mean seriously.
Go.
And then after 10 minutes talking to you, I'm going, he's a great bloke. I've got no issue with him, he's covered it, that's fine. Nice, enjoy your holiday, off you go to the plane. That bit of risk prevention, the dehumanisation has made me humanise you again by using a dehumanising tactic to see if I can... I can't dehumanise you, I bring you back as a human.
I totally agree with that.
Get it? I'll bring you back.
So you were saying?
Sorry.
So I'll bring you back to the whole point now.
You went deep there.
The whole point that we were saying, you said supposedly that Anders Breivik has nothing and no similarities and no parallels to this young woman who's gone across, you can't prove has actually done anything apart from align with a certain ideology. So what is the difference?
Clear differences.
What's the difference?
Come on.
I'm waiting for it.
Can you not see them yourself?
I'm waiting for it. You wanted facts.
But
you wanted to materialize it, so let's do that.
You're acting like you don't see any differences.
I'm asking you for the differences.
You shouldn't have to argue about something that we probably both know already.
You can't.
I can't. Hold on. Relax. Hold it. Slow down. I'll tell you why.
Don't know when to start.
Yeah, I'll let you know. Like, why argue about something we can probably both see? We can all see differences in the case.
I was talking
like,
you joined in and thought that you'd nitpick. So I challenged you on your nitpicking. So I'm asking you to articulate what the differences are. Where are the differences?
Okay, I'm going to have to repeat some stuff I said earlier.
Go ahead. We got time.
So earlier, maybe I got it wrong, but I thought your initial argument was that this happens for Islamic radicalists, but the right wing do it all the time, but nothing happens to them. Right, I don't see how. And then when I ask you for an example on the right, you give me Anders Breivik. Now, Anders Breivik is not the same as what's happened now. And are you saying that you can't see the difference?
I can show you the exact similarities between Anders Breivik and a radical.
Before you do that, I'll invite you to admit if you see any differences.
Differences between
Anders Breivik and the girl. Come on, let's be honest. There's clear differences.
You're asking me to debate your point. So
sure.
Let me do that.
Agreed.
Let me do that for you. So
okay.
You can't. I'll do it. So you're asking me to point out the differences between a young girl who's gone across, wanted to fight for her homeland, and a grown man who owns a business, pretty clever, who decided to
Where did she go?
Mass murder.
Sorry, my bad. I don't want to cut you off, but where did she go again? Just remind everyone here. So she was born in Britain.
Yeah.
And where did she go to fight?
Syria.
She went to Syria.
Via
And,
Turkey.
and her family's from where? Bangladesh. Right. So how's that work?
How's that work?
Yeah. I thought you said she went to fight for her country.
She went to fight for her homeland.
Homeland. Syria.
Is that not the Middle East?
But if
Does that
she's
not
from
really count as the Middle
Bangladesh
East?
and she was born in Britain,
She went to fight for the
do you see what I'm saying? You
went
see
to
how
the caliphate.
I'm just trying to, I want to hear what you're
She
trying
went to
to.
the caliphate.
Is that what he meant?
I can
Right.
articulate.
I
don't have a
know what
problem
he's
with
saying.
that.
He meant the
I can
homeland,
do
the
that.
caliphate.
Okay.
I can do that. I can do
Her idea of what a homeland
what
should
he's
be for her and her people.
Say that
Right.
again?
Continue.
Do you want me to
She
continue?
ain't from Syria. But go on.
You're not going to interrupt?
Bro, it's cool to
You're not
interrupt,
gonna
man. Look,
No worries, no worries.
you don't have to
No
get
worries.
so
If
sensitive
we
about
don't-
interruptions.
If we
man.
don't want to contextualize the fact that the attack on the Middle East as a whole has been seen as an attack on everyone within the Middle East. Bangladesh.
Well, ISIS
anyone,
attacks.
anyone.
What are you talking about? What attacks do you mean?
I'm talking about the attacks just generally.
Oh, like all
There are
types
loads
of
of-
attacks
there are
from
loads of-
ISIS and from the West.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
They're
There are
against the homeland.
There are loads of Muslims that disagree with ISIS. There are loads of Muslims that disagree with Al
Sure.
Qaeda. Loads of them who wanted to fight against them, protest against them as well.
Sure.
So, where's the confusion?
No, that's not the
Okay,
point.
no
The
worries,
point
no
is about
worries. No worries.
the similarities between Anders Breivik and the girl. I just don't see them.
Okay, no worries. Let me explain them to you.
Yeah.
We have ideologies. No matter what group you want to be akin to or you want to be assigned to, we have ideologies. Whether you're far right, whether you're Ku Klux Klan,
Whatever.
whether you want to be X, Y, and Z, Identity Europe, they have the same ideology, they have the same narrative. These narratives allow certain people to dehumanize certain people
Right.
so that it makes it easier to make them
That's
dispendable.
what you guys were.
Absolutely
Good point.
dispendable,
Prevention-
meaning
as a
that they
prevention-
can
as a
kill
prevention
them.
measure.
So the question we were talking about, we were
all
talking
have
about
it.
the prevention
Do it
measures,
right.
which we were completely absolutely agreeing on. Now, my question to you is, you say that you do see some differences. I've given you the fact that they're ideologies. They teach people to dehumanize people and then end up bringing them to a point where they think certain people's lives are disposable. Where is the difference?
So I agreed with you earlier. You forgot about that. I said, yeah, we both agree that the process of radicalization occurs in all ideologies. That we agree on. There's no difference. But the concrete, actual events of what's unfolded is clearly different. Do I have to tell you? It's clearly different. Anders Breivik committing a fucking random faceless crime, killing loads of children in his home country. Then we were talking about visa. When we talking about visa, when we talking about her trying to get back in the country.
Hang on a minute.
The whole.
Can I interject now? I've got to interject some very important point there. If I don't mention it,
Go.
it's in context.
Context is important.
Martin Sellner, for example, was refused entry to the United Kingdom, was held in a detention centre
Which is an
under
example,
preventative measures.
That's
What they did was they dehumanised him at that point, being an individual, and then found out what his humanity is, decided to put him into the box as high risk as an individual, and left him back where he was in Austria or wherever he was at the time. That is called preventative dehumanising to then get who the human is. They got a human, but they decide it's not a human they want here.
Just look.
Why did they bring it? Now, you might agree or disagree whether he should be here or not. Doesn't matter. The state decided
Right.
he was a risk to Britain, and therefore they did preventative measures, which was exclusion. The same thing they should do with this girl.
Just
That's
on
what I'm
a
saying.
quick one, just before I return to
Do you
this
see
one.
that?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I think, like you said, I'm going to disagree on the terminology human, because I think exploring someone's background, past, or whatever, or ideology,
Like you said, I
what
might be
they're saying
going
or
deep,
whatever,
but it's the
it
way
may
that a
be,
profiler
absolutely.
will work you out. It's a way a professional profiler at an airport will work you out. They have to dehumanise you first to make you human.
Absolutely.
Right.
But
There's a reason.
when we were talking about the preventive measure, etc., Martin Selma is a grown man, right? So when we were talking about waiting points earlier, there was a significant waiting opportunity for Martin Selma to, supposedly articulate his point, as opposed to like make it so extreme. This is a young girl. I would argue that her waiting point is significantly lesser to Martin Selma's. That's a big problem. Again, I agree with
But is she
you.
a risk to
No,
Britain?
that's
That's
the
all I wanna know.
thing. That's the
Is she a risk
That's
to
the thing.
Britain? If you are, goodbye.
But
That's
this is the thing. This is the thing about humanizing and dehumanizing, isn't
I
it?
know.
Like there
I
are
get
middle
it.
points that I would like to
I get
explore,
it.
and then some people wouldn't.
Yeah,
like
no,
to
I understand.
explore.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
definitely agree with that. But do you mind if I quickly just finish
on.
on this point?
Yeah,
right?
please do,
Just finish
please
on
do.
this point.
No, please do.
So we've highlighted the fact that you can't give me any differences or any solid differences that you can spout between the two individuals. I'll give
No,
you
no,
some
we never
differences
got
that I
that
see.
far.
Give me 2 seconds. We'll give you some differences that I see between, say, the far right and this young girl. A lot of the far right, most of their demographic are fairly middle-aged men. That is the
I don't know.
supposed demographic, right? They now have a young following, but the most of it is middle-aged men. A lot of the people flying to Syria, these are young people who haven't learned about the world.
Sure.
Right? So, as I was saying to this gentleman here, do we owe them that? This is the question. It's not something I agree with. Do we owe them the benefit of the doubt that they haven't had that significant waning period to see otherwise? Because a lot of these people, they grow up in Islamic homes. So what they hear is that their homeland is under attack, and that's all they see. Right?
Homeland. Right.
My question was, not even my question, my statement was that I find it brave that certain young children will give up all the privileges they have here to fly to somewhere unknown.
To me, ridiculous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, absolutely.
To me,
but to fly to somewhere unknown, to fight for a cause that they believe in, whether it's right or wrong, the intentions of it, right? Now, whether you agree they should come back or whatever, I agree with you that it poses a big risk.
So
it's not really worth it.
We've got to be a state, as a state, we've got
Absolutely,
to profile this and go, this is too high risk, I'm sorry, you're not entering Britain.
Absolutely.
And we have to that's why I meant by dehumanising. Forget her story.
Absolutely.
It's almost like we're being cold and going, we don't care about your story. You are a risk to Britain. Hang on a minute. But to get to that point, you've got the profiler's got to make that decision. So we as a state become the profiler. That's what's happening here. That's why you've got a petition now of nearly 400,000 people saying they don't want it to come back.
Absolutely.
Because the country's deciding as a profiler she's high risk to Britain.
And
the only way we're going to know, that she isn't a high risk, we've got to wait for one day to die naturally to make sure she hasn't blown herself up and killed other people. And then we'll know the prevention was right. You'll never know until what you're trying to prevent doesn't happen.
I think...
and that's a security man's nightmare every day of the week.
Surely as a Christian nation they should grant her the grace to be able to establish that.
She's
and
too much of a
give her
risk
the
to this
help.
country. As far as I'm concerned, you don't come back to this country, you're a risk.
Who decides that?
The profiler.
No, you profile her. So like any country will profile who's coming in, and I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But forget Christianity, forget all this.
No, I'm just
I have
saying
to
as
dehumanise this
a
woman. I don't care about her, but I'm going to be really
it should
horrible.
be to be able to show grace to that situation because she's a child who's obviously been radicalised.
No, I'll tell you what I don't. I have to do this. I don't care about the baby. I don't care about her. The reason I have to dehumanise her, and it's upsetting I have to dehumanise her, is to protect Britain. It's a security man's nightmare every day at an airport to decide who can travel and who can't travel. Sometimes they get it right, sometimes they get it wrong. But they're quite happy to make me take my belt off to look for an explosive, and I'm a man who would never blow you up ever in my entire life. But they don't know my history, so what do they do? They dehumanise me for that moment to decide, take that off, sir. Well, I'm a good man. How do I know that, sir? Take it off. This is the issue.
We were talking about messages, sending messages
We have
earlier,
to
but I think as politicians as well, they have to weigh a lot of the situations and they have to come to a decision that kind of like they may not agree or disagree with, whichever one, but the pros outweigh the cons kind of thing. And I find myself agreeing with this gentleman in the sense that she should not necessarily be let back. But in a sense for me, it's that it sends a message to young children that you can't just fly across, join violent groups like this and then expect to come
and then we stop others
home
doing
because it presents a massive
but it's
risk.
still unfortunate that this young girl be the example that they're going to use.
I wish there was another way. There isn't another way for her. I wish there was. I don't see it.
But then how many will we save by stopping them going across?
See, prevention's a very difficult thing. We can only talk about prevention if nothing actually happens that we're worrying about. How do I know today? Like I said to this gentleman, I don't want to frighten him, but we're standing in London, in a major security city, of the world. Yeah. We've got security agencies all over here, cameras everywhere. We don't know today they've stopped 4 things that we don't know that never happened to us, and therefore for them the prevention issue worked. So we only know when a plane arrives at a foreign destination and the people haven't exploded in that plane and everyone gets off that the prevention worked. With this woman, we can't take this risk because she's publicly too high profile as a risk for my purposes, from my point of view. So my view, I'm not on the fence, don't let her back. That's it.
But I still believe as a British citizen she is entitled to basic human rights to be able to work with her if
so
she has been
at me?
Well, that's the way that is. That's
am
where
I
they pull
upset
on
I've
me
got to talk about
because she is a child who has been radicalised to the point that she has been prepared to leave this nation where she has privileges here to go to a war-torn country to fight for what she believes in.
And if you safeguard this country...
that's not a human right to go abroad and fight in
No,
wars.
but what I'm saying is,
how is that a human right?
What I'm saying is, if she's left, that we have as a, I believe we have as a nation.
Do you fly out
we
across the world?
have the protections first and foremost.
Have you ever been asked to take your shoes off and have your belt taken off? Well, usually when you go through an airport, you'll find they ask everybody to take their belt off and the shoes. Hang on a minute. Everywhere you go in the world. So if you do that.
Change your perception
I mean, I went out to the airport last week because I go to Europe a lot. They even put my toothpaste through a special thing to see if I didn't have Semtex in there. Hang on a minute, I'm a man who wouldn't know how to blow someone up even if I read how to do it. The issue is I'm no risk, but they didn't trust me at that moment, did they? It has stopped a lot of things, I can assure you. The issue is, for example, right, forget the liquids thing. I'm not talking about airport liquids. I'm talking about general why we do preventative measures. What I'm talking about, there are reasons, because of other reasons, why we take our belts off. There are reasons why we take our shoes off. We've had shoe bombers. We've had people who put explosives in belts. Hey, hang on a minute, hang on. Look, I'm not discussing about, I'm talking about why we make preventative measures.
I think
the issue is I'm going to dehumanise you for 10 minutes when I profile you, whether I think you should or should not go on that plane.
I think he raises a good point.
I don't think he understands wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. But, I think he raises a good point.
But she's not someone I've got to interview. We know her story, so therefore it's already done for us. We don't. Your point is right. The point I'm trying to make. Can I be fair to your point? Because I understand your point. It's not bad, but I understand. When I go on the tube, they don't always check me. I understand. And probably people watching, I realise. The issue is, I'm not saying that every time I go through an airport, a bomb's not going to go off somewhere. We've proven that happens. What you'll never know by preventative security is what actually has been prevented, because it's never explained. What I'm trying to say to you is, hang on. The only way I know that you have been prevented from being killed today is when you go to bed safely tonight. And therefore someone might have prevented you in the London system from dying today. You don't even know. Because, hang on a minute, because of that, we have various systems. Some are not obvious to you, and others are clearly our airports are, and at certain points. We are being asked as a nation to bring back a woman who clearly went of her own accord or whatever to a land, right, to go into what we would class from our point of view a barbaric system. Hang on a minute. She was part of that system. She got herself pregnant 3 times, lost 2 babies, got 1. Okay, on a human level, sad. I forget the sad. Is she a risk to Britain? Yes, because she could be someone so clearly, obviously, that could cause us damage. So we make a decision, X, you're not coming in.
I feel like we missed the point that the gentleman raised, which was a really good point in the sense of the practicality of these measures and the actual, what they actually,
we don't know
how much do they stop, exactly, and that's a big problem. Transparency should be something that we have. Now, what he said in terms of, again, how do we know things have been stopped? And how do we know they're not using it to justify more and more creeping into privacy, etc., blah, blah, blah. Right. I think he raises a good point. And just by allowing what you said in terms of, like, these are provisions, they keep us safe, end of conversation. We don't really understand that that can be used later on to justify.
I'm going to be fair to you. I get your point and I get his point. Yeah. Your point was made.
Oh, it's his point. It's not my point.
No.
It's his point.
But I'll be fair. I did get that point. I wasn't ignoring it. I'm just being very honest with you as to why I want to block her.
That's fair enough.
What I'm saying to you is, today, the system we're in isn't going to, the nightly news today, for obvious reasons, go, hello, just going to go to the security services for tonight's update. We today filed 6 bomb blasts on the London Underground, Central Line, Metropolitan. They're not going to tell you, are they? The reason they're not going to tell you is for obvious reasons. We're not discussing that type of prevention here. We're talking about a person who's now become an international news story, who has a profile that any profiler in the world, at any entry point in the world, is going to be really worried about. So we have to make a decision as a country. So the country's beginning to petition saying we don't want her for what I personally think, you may disagree with me and I respect you for disagreeing with me, for genuinely security preventative. So unfortunately, well, the lady's gone now, but the lady made a good point. As a British citizen, I'm actually a humanitarian person. It's upsetting I've got to talk about this lady in this way, but I'm going to have to dehumanise it to protect the rest of us and say, I'm sorry, young 19-year-old lady with an unfortunate story, you're too high risk for me, don't come back here. That's the way it is. I'm profiling her.
And other issues, the same kind of thing. Like, are you fine with having every